Life is a game, and the player opposite you is time. This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com and ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you maximize revenue and eliminate chaos. This is the podcast for the construction business owner. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about 57 famous alibis or excuses. I'm going to read an excerpt from one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich. And we're going to talk about, as we approach the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, what are some alibis, some excuses you might be making and thereby holding yourself back. A couple of things I want to get into your hands. First of all, before we get into that, number one, if you want to systematize your business, if you want to sell more work at higher margins, if you want to fix your cash flow, if you want to get your business where you want it to ultimately be, if you can see what your business could look like, but you just can't seem to get there, then I've decided to reopen the Construction Business Accelerator enrollment, and I'm offering something that I've never offered before. Right now, you can get into the Construction Business Accelerator, get access to over $6,000 worth of bonuses, including the Revenue Maximizer, which is going to help you literally give you a blueprint that will map out what your business needs to look like so you can operate your business from right to left, help you set revenue targets, help you understand your overhead, help you understand where the gaps in your revenue will be so you can identify cash flow gaps before they happen. Because look, these cash flow gaps are going to happen. They're a reality. And you can either get punched in the face when they show up and checks start bouncing, or you can plan for them and have time to go to work and make them go away. So that's what the Revenue Maximizer is going to do for you. You're also going to get access to the Contractor Sales Accelerator, where you'll learn how to build a referral partner network, and you'll also get the Leadership Masterclass and the Mindset Upgrade, about $6,000 worth of stuff. And get this, you can get all of that when you sign up for a 7-day trial for only $1.99. And then after that, it's only $49 a month. But here's the deal. This offer ends and enrollment closes down Saturday, December 14th at 11 p.m. Eastern. So you need to act quickly. This is a very short-term offer. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/start. constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/start. Grab your 7-day trial for only $1.99 to get access to $6,000 worth of stuff. I am probably giving away the farm, but I want to get this stuff in your hands. I want you to roll into 2020 and have a successful plan, or have a plan to be successful. And I don't like the idea of having the resources you need and not making them available to you. But you got to act quickly. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/start to get your 7-day trial. And if it would be easier for you to send a text, then send me a text, 859-667-2015, and just put CBA in there, and I'll send you the link. All right? Trying to make this absolutely a no-brainer and make it easy for you. All right, let's get to these alibis. And here's what I would challenge you to do. Listen to these 57 famous alibis from Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich. I guarantee there are a few that will sting a little bit because you're saying them to yourselves. There are several that I've put little dots beside, and I'll share which ones I'm probably guilty of. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from this. It'll take a few minutes. This will be a short episode, but a potentially enlightening one. So make sure and listen to this. Okay, 57 famous alibis by Old Man If. People who do not succeed have one distinguishing trait in common. They know all the reasons for failure and have what they believe to be airtight alibis to explain away their own lack of achievement. Some of these alibis are clever, and a few are justifiable by the facts, but alibis cannot be used for money. The world wants to know only one thing. Have you achieved success? a character analyst compiled a list of the most commonly used alibis. As you read the list, or as you listen to this list, examine yourself carefully and determine how many of these alibis, if any, are your own property. Remember, too, the philosophy presented in this book makes every one of these alibis obsolete. Here we go. If, every one of these alibis starts with if. If I didn't have a wife and a family. If I had enough, quote, pull. If I had money. If I had a good education. If I could get a job. If I had good health. Here's one of mine. If I only had time. If times were better. If other people understood me. If conditions around me were only different. If I could live my life over again. Here's one. I have a dot beside this one. If I did not fear what they would say. If I did not fear what they would say. If I had been given a chance. If I now had a chance. If other people didn't have it in for me. If nothing happens to stop me. If I were only younger. If I could only do what I want. If I had been born rich. If I could meet the right people. If I had the talent that some people have. That has a dot next to it for me. If I dared to assert myself. If only I had embraced past opportunities. If people didn't get on my nerves. If I didn't have to keep house and look after the children. If I could save some money. If the boss only appreciated me. If I only had someone to help me. If my family understood me. If I lived in a bigger city. This one has a dot next to it. If I could just get started. If I were only free. If I had the personality of some people. If I were not so fat. If my talents were known. Or if people knew my talents. If I could just get a break. If I could only get out of debt. This next one has a dot next to it. For me, if I hadn't failed. If I only knew how. If everybody didn't oppose me. If I didn't have so many worries. If I could marry the right person. If people weren't so dumb. If my family were not so extravagant. This one has a dot next to it. If I were sure of myself. If luck were not against me. If I had not been born under the wrong star. That's a little out there. If it were not true that, quote, what is to be will be. If the fates weren't against me. If I did not have to work so hard. If I hadn't lost my money. If I lived in a different neighborhood. If I didn't have a past. If I only had a business of my own. If other people would only listen to me. If, and this is the greatest of them all, if I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others, for I know that there is something wrong with me, or I would now be where I would have been if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. Let me restate some of that. Right now I would be where I wanted to be if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. So let me recap a couple of the alibis that Todd is guilty of. Todd is guilty of creating alibis to cover. If I only had time, if I didn't fear what they would say, if nothing happens to stop me, if I only had somebody to help me, if I could just get started, if I hadn't failed, if people only appreciated me, if I were sure of myself, if I didn't have a past. See, when I read this list, I realized that I had spent a lot of time developing alibis to cover these weaknesses instead of just embracing the weaknesses, owning the weaknesses, and then getting to work solving them. All right, back to this. Back to reading from this excerpt. Building alibis with which to explain away failure is a national pastime. The habit is as old as the human race and is fatal to success. Let me say that again. The habit of building alibis with which to explain away failure is fatal to success. Why do people cling to their pet alibis? The answer is obvious. They defend their alibis because they create them. An alibi is the child of one's own imagination. It's human nature to defend one's own brainchild. Building alibis is a deeply rooted habit. Habits are difficult to break, especially when they provide justification for something we do. Plato had this truth in mind when he said, quote, "The first and best victory is to conquer self. To be conquered by self is, of all things, the most shameful and vile," end quote. Another philosopher had the same thought in mind when he said, quote, "It was a great surprise to me when I discovered that most of the ugliness I saw in others was but a reflection of my own nature." "It has always been a mystery to me," said Elbert Hubbard, "why people spend so much time deliberately fooling themselves by creating alibis to cover their weaknesses. If used differently, this same time would be sufficient to cure the weakness. Then no alibis would be needed," end quote. In parting, listen to this. I would remind you that life is a game and the player opposite you is time. Life is a game and the player opposite you is time. If you hesitate before moving or neglect to move thoughtfully and decisively, your pieces will be wiped off the board by time. You're playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. Life is a game, and the player opposite you is time. You're playing against a partner who does not tolerate indecision. So here's my challenge for you. Listen to that list of alibis. Find the ones that sound familiar. What are the porcupines that you need to hug? And then take Napoleon Hill's advice when he said, think about where you would be if you had spent more time analyzing your weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. Identify your weaknesses. Go to work on your weaknesses. If you need help with something, find help. If you need to be more disciplined, find help with that. If you need to put systems in place in your business, find help with that. If you need to be better at selling, find help with that. If you need to be a better leader, find help with that. But stop making alibis. Stop believing the alibis. Embrace your weaknesses. Go to work on them. Decide that 2020 is going to be different than 2019. So if you want help systematizing your business, becoming a better leader, selling work at higher margins, and you want to be part of a community of other like-minded construction business owners, then go grab your 7-day trial of the Construction Business Accelerator for only $1.99, but the offer ends Saturday night, December 14th at 11 p.m. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/start. Grab your 7-day trial for $1.99. Get in there, start working on those things, and let's make 2020 the year that everything changes for you. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate the ratings and the reviews. If you have questions and you're not sure where to go, send me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com, or send me a text, 859-667-2015. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time.